This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. So I saw that there'd been an update for the HoTone Ampero Stomp just at the end of last year, where they'd actually brought across a couple of things, including a John Petrucci Mazabugi signature, and that's what I was using in the introduction there, the cleans from the clean channel of that, obviously, and then the drives from the drive channel of that, obviously. And it kind of, put this back on the radar for me, and I think it's fair to say there's a bit of a consensus about maybe what the top of the modelling stuff might be. So you probably have, in various orders, Fractal, Line 6, and obviously Neural DSP new to the mix and definitely get included up in that top, and Kemper as well, but I guess we kind of don't really think of Kemper as modelling per se. Right, and then there are other things, like there's the headrush stuff, which I think a lot of people either really like or really dislike, and then there's the boss stuff, and I think boss in some ways have chosen not to play the game properly, which is I think why you don't get lots of people doing videos with boss stuff, because actually they don't tend to update the stuff. And then there's HoTone Moore Vailton, or Valiton, however you say it, is another player that I get asked about quite a bit, but I've only got so much space, and to learn every single device I don't think for me is possible. But the HoTone stuff is something that every time I've turned it on, I bought all of the stuff that I got from HoTone, and I will not change the way that I say it, because it's apparently HoTone, but HoTone is better in it. Moho's, no problems. Anyway, so every time I turn this on, so this is a thing that I had to be kind of honest about with the Tone Master Pro. I never really had a wow moment with that. However, the HoTone, anytime I turn it on, I'm really, really impressed with the sounds from this thing. I don't think necessarily it's the best. There's definitely problems with it, and I've done videos on them. So one of those is a slightly noisy power supply that kind of escalates in pitch as it goes. In my house, at least, it's probably not the same for every single person. And the other problem is that whenever you go to like put on a tuner, because of the way they've implemented the foot switching, it basically kicks you into whatever patch would be underneath this, even if you're in stomp mode. Similarly, if you're on the looper, it kicks you, or kicking on the looper, it kicks you into whatever patch was under here momentarily. So you get momentary kind of blips of sound and not seamless switching. The other thing that I've seen that HoTone have been actually fairly responsive on is saying that there will be scenes like you get in the Helix world and Quad Cortex world and Fractal worlds to some degree. Some version of scenes where you can actually set up, I don't know how many scenes, maybe 3, and have different parameters per scene. Because it doesn't have seamless patch changes, that could be a thing that I think people really are looking for. Let me know in the comments if that's you. For this preset here, what I was doing was I set in the control section, you can set controls to have multiple targets. And so I have my amps on and off, so I've got both the clean and the drive channel in the same patch. And yeah, you set one to be on and one to be off, and then when you press the control switch, it turns both. So you could set up the chain to be switched in that way. But it has a really, really comprehensive selection of amps. Really, considering some of the other competition don't really have a ton of choice. This has things from Bogner Ecstasies, Dumbles, now the Petrucci. It's got a Mark II C Plus in there. I think it's got a Mezzo Boogie Lone Star as well. A bunch of Fender amplifiers. It doesn't seem to have blind spots like quite a lot of the other devices have. Like the Quad Cortex is missing any of the Dumble sort of style stuff. I guess it's got the Morgan SW50. But yeah, there's definitely blind spots in there. The Boss, for instance, they choose for whatever reason to not really model too many amps at all anyway. Headrush again is mostly amp models from the Avid side of things, which, what was it called, the 11 rack. So those are quite old amp models anyway, if that matters to you. So it covers quite a lot of stuff. I don't think necessarily the effects, as I've experienced in there, are the most mind-blowing, but they are functional. And for instance, I was using the Dimension for the chorus there, and I thought that does a good job. And, whether you need a million different choices for delays and reverbs, I guess it's up to you. And price-wise, at the moment in the UK, these are £400. So I think there is some evidence to suggest that they are working on the scenes thing. And you'd hope they'd also be working on the little blips. Although, again, that's about a year ago. I think I might have highlighted those issues. I'm sure someone else has highlighted them to them as well. I have no dealings with HoTone, by the way, obviously. But I think a really decent sounding unit, and that is kind of a big part of the battle. In some ways, I found it easier to get great tones out of this than, say, for instance, a Podgo. And in the side-by-sides that I've done with the Quad Cortex even, it definitely holds its own, I feel, in terms of tone and feel. So that's kind of impressive for the price. It's got no XLR outs, but it does have MIDI and a send and return. And the PC editor is actually pretty good. The annoying thing with it for me is that it actually kicks you in and out if you make a change on the unit. So that is quite frustrating in terms of workflow. But other than that, it's pretty good. So I think it is a candidate for maybe the best of the rest, personally. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But yeah, it was just fresh in my mind because there's been that update. I think it's got train wreck amps in there as well. But really quite impressive. I couldn't use it live necessarily at the moment without them updating that scenes mode, or I wouldn't. But I think my buddy Dave from up the road, a guy in his band, or the guy that he was gigging with, actually used one of these, and he was really impressed with the tone live. So that's, yeah, I think, let me know if you're using the HoTone Ampero Stomp. They're coming out with this stage thing as well, which is basically, I think, the same processing power, but with more foot switches. So that might be relatively interesting for people that are looking for this. But would you buy a HoTone, or would you stay away from it? Would you go for kind of the more well-known stuff? I'd like to know your thoughts. Maybe this could be the best of the rest. I'm quite impressed with it for the money, and you can buy them used for not a lot either. So Yeah, really good tones, I think.